Hello and welcome to another video. It's been now 2 years since I started my show, The Retro Gambler, and for this special occasion I wanted to make a Q&A video. So in the previous video I asked my viewers and subscribers if they have some questions that they wanna ask me, and yeah, I was pretty surprised. I got a whole bunch of questions and I try to answer them as best as I can in this video, because another thing that surprised me was that there were some pretty hard questions, and I hope that I can answer them for you. Okay, another thing that I wanted to mention just before we start with the video is that I wanted to say thank you again to all my viewers and subscribers for your support and yeah, your comments and everything. It's really cool to know that there are people out there that like my videos or are interested in the stuff that I have to say and to show. And yeah, like I said, thank you again to all my viewers and subscribers. Okay, but now let's start. The first question is from Roan83, and he wanted to know what was the reason, game, system that made you want to collect and play. What influenced and moved you the most to make you go so far at this hobby? I guess this is actually the hardest questions of all that I got, and I hope I can answer this somehow. Okay, what made me want to collect? Actually, this was, I would say, a lucky coincidence, because I started collecting in 2002 and I was in a small shopping mall and I came across a little video game store, and in their display they had this game laying around. This is Gold Cliff from Nintendo, the Game & Watch series, the multi-screen edition, and or the multi-screen series. And I saw it and I got a little bit nostalgic, because I had this one when I was a teenager, and I didn't bought it that day, but a couple of days later I went back and I bought it because it didn't get out of my mind. And yeah, when I had it at home and I played it a little bit, I thought a little bit about the time when I had this. And I thought about what other video game related things I had back then, and also what did I had during my childhood. And then I went back again to the shop and looked a little bit around, and then I saw this Donkey Kong, also from the multi-screen series Game & Watch from Nintendo, and I never had it back then, but a lot of my school buddies had one of those. So again, I bought it because I was a little bit nostalgic, because I wanted to have something that I always wanted to have in my childhood, but I never had. And and that was the time where with that thing started the research online, because I thought, hey, this is pretty old. I wanted to know if it was the first of the multi-screen series. And then I looked online and I found out that this was the second game from the multi-screen series, and the first one was Oil Panic. So I went back and they actually had Oil Panic, so I bought this one. And from there on, yeah, I started to buy things at that shop that I had during my childhood, and also actually there started everything. I wanted to get back all my old systems that I had and all the old games that I had, and also I saw a lot of things that I never had, but school buddies had them, or some friends, or that I saw only in video game magazines. And yeah, I wanted, as a child, I wanted to have them, but yeah, my parents didn't bought them for me or whatever. And this is actually how I started collecting. So it started with a little bit nostalgic, and then I tried to get all my old stuff back, and from there on I also want to have all the things that I never had as a child but I wanted. And then also because I read a lot on the internet about the systems and everything, then you come across some other systems that you never heard of. And yeah, this is actually how it started with my collection. So the reason what made me wanted to collect is actually this game here, Gold Cliff. And yeah, the reason what made me want to play and what influenced and moved me the most, I guess for the influence I can say that my whole childhood, because during my childhood we had a couple of different systems. We had the Atari 2600, the Commodore 64, the Commodore Amiga, later on the PC, and yeah, I mean, let's say it like that, I grew up during the evolution of video games, and there was so much that influenced me. I mean, going from 2D to 3D, the whole history about the full motion video games, and also the evolution of video games in general. I mean, the first video games were all about high score, or almost every game was all about the high score. You couldn't really beat the games. It was, yeah, like I said, all about the high score. How big can you how many points can you get in this game? And later on they started to have some stories, and also they have a real storyline. So there was actually something that you started the game and you could finish the game with a real ending. I mean, also in the beginning there was only congratulations, you beat this game, but later on they put in more work with storyline and cutscenes and everything. So I guess this is something that influenced me the most. And what I really like or love about video games, that yeah, is actually that you have to work your way through a story. And it's completely different. Like when you read a book, there is the story, there's one point of view, and yeah, you read the story. If you watch a movie, same thing, you just watch the movie. But in the video game, it's up to you to see the end of the game, to finish the story for yourself. And I guess this is the reason why I love video games so much. I mean, I can't really say what got me into gaming, because my earliest memory that I have is when my father borrowed a Pong console from one of our neighbors for me and my brother. This is actually the earliest memory that I have about video games. I actually don't know how so I can't really say which was my first video game that I ever saw and that made me fall in love with video games. And yeah, this is actually my answer to this question. I hope that I satisfied you with my answer in some kind of way. I mean, maybe I got the question wrong, I don't know, but this is actually everything that I can say about this question. Or this is actually the whole answer that I can give you to this question. Okay, the next question is by Stern. 1. And he asks me actually 2 questions. Number 1, which systems are your top 10 and 10 worst? I'm sorry, but I can't answer you this question. I don't play favorites on my systems and games. I can say my favorite video game system of all time is, or better, let's say my favorite system of all time is the Commodore Amiga, because it's a computer and not a video game system in that kind. So it's the Commodore Amiga 500. And yeah, worst, I guess for me the worst video game system, I'm gonna say the Tiger R-Zone, the first model. It's more a handheld system, but it is a video game system. But yeah, I can't tell you my top 10 or worst 10. I'm not saying that I'm never gonna do it or that I'm never gonna tell my top 10 or 10 worst. Maybe I make a video someday, but yeah, sorry. And second question, what game do you think was the greatest disappointment to you, and could you review it? Now, my biggest disappointment of a video game that I ever had, I guess it was Die Hard Vendetta. And I actually reviewed this game in my Christmas special, Die Hard Christmas, and it wasn't a huge video or anything, but I actually already reviewed it. And the reason why it was such a disappointment for me was that this is the GameCube version. Later on they released the Xbox and PlayStation 2 version, and I actually had pretty high hopes for this game. I didn't read anything that I can memorize about this game, so it was actually more a blind buy, I guess. But the high expectations that I had was because some of the starting titles for the GameCube, and also the reason why I bought actually the GameCube was the Star Wars Rogue Squadron game or games later on, and also because of Resident Evil 1 and the remake. And yeah, the graphics on the GameCube, they were pretty amazing, so I saw what the GameCube was capable of. And this was one disappointment because the graphics in this game are pretty average for a GameCube, and also I really hated the controls in this game. And it is a first-person shooter, but it's pretty arcadey, and yeah, I mean, the worst for me was actually the controls. I'm not a huge fan of the Nintendo GameCube controller. I mean, I can play with it, but I don't like the controller that much, and the controls are for the most part too sensitive. And yeah, I really thought that they could make so much more with this game, but for me they actually screwed it completely. And so this was actually the hugest disappointment for me in terms of a video game. Okay, and yeah, like I said, I already mini reviewed it in my Die Hard Christmas special. Okay, the next question is from Jaden General, and he asks, could you make a special about the toughest shoot-em-ups like Ikaruga and Co? The music in the background is from the game Amiga. It's from the Amiga game Apudia, right? Okay, yes, you're right. In that previous video where I asked my viewers and subscribers if they have some questions, this was actually the music that was playing in the background was from Apudia. I guess it was from level 3 or level 4 or stage 3 or stage 4. And yeah, could I do special about the toughest shoot 'em ups like Ikaruga? I guess I can't, because Ikaruga is one of those bullet hell shooters, and I've tried those, but I can't play those games. I guess it's because if I play those games, I have to focus a little bit too much on just the ship, because you have to dodge all the bullets that come at you. And my mind also wants, or my eyes actually also want, to see the graphics of the stage, and also if I hit the guy, the enemies or anything. And this is something that yeah, I can't do them. I can't play those games, because just looking at the ship or the plane or whatever and dodging the bullets is not enough for me. And if I start looking at other things, I get hit. So I don't like those bullet hell shooters like Ikaruga. I know it's a pretty game, it's cool and everything, but it's not those kind of shoot 'em ups that I like to play. And I played a ton of shoot 'em ups during my childhood and everything. Maybe I can do a video in the future about shoot 'em ups and maybe the toughest shoot 'em ups that I played in my childhood or anything, but it's not gonna happen, especially not with Ikaruga. And maybe I'm gonna make such a special video someday, but not in the near future. Okay, next question is from Carsten Stengel, and he wants to know, I'd like to know if you also like to read and collect books, for example Final Fantasy or Star Wars or anything else. So I guess what he tries to ask me is if I collect books about video games or video game series or anything. And yeah, kind of. My fiance actually collects Star Wars novels, and she has a huge collection of Star Wars novels. I love the Star Wars series, or better, let's say the Star Wars universe. I love all the games, the Star Wars games. I played almost every Star Wars game that was ever released. I love the movies. Also, we have so many things about the Star Wars. We have technical books about the ships or technical data, and all the DVDs and VHS tapes, and yeah, like I said, video games, and also board games or whatever. But I never got into the books for some kind of reason. I never was interested reading Star Wars books, also not Final Fantasy or anything. But I have every Resident Evil novel that was released. I guess maybe there are some new ones that I haven't read yet. And also I read every novel about Indiana Jones. And there are also a lot of Indiana Jones video games out there, so I guess I can add this to this answer. And a funny thing, I actually started with one book that I bought just for because we were on vacation and I needed a book for a flight. And I bought an Indiana Jones. I started reading, but I didn't got very far into the book, and for some kind of reason it didn't. I wasn't very excited to read this book. And later on, my father read this Indiana Jones novel because he's also actually a pretty huge Indiana Jones fan. Not huge, but he really enjoyed all the movies. Like, also I also enjoyed all the Indiana Jones movies and everything. But after he read this one book, he started buying one novel after the other one. And at some day I started reading that book again, that I bought back then for the flight, and yeah, I really got into this book. I completed it, and well, I read through the end, and yeah, I was also pretty excited. And yeah, from there on I also read every book that my father bought about the Indiana Jones series. But beside those, yeah, I read a lot, and also the only other books that I read, or the novels that I read, I read The Lord of the Rings, all 3 books. During the time the first movie was released, I started to read all of them, and also Harry Potter, and also I read a lot of DSA books. DSA stands for Das Schwarze Auge, and this is Dungeons and Dragons in the German language. Actually, it's a series that is more or less based on Dungeons and Dragons, the role-playing game, and it's kind of the same universe, but this is the German version, let's say, like Dungeons and Dragons. And from the time I started playing role-playing games, I started reading those, and I have a huge collection of DSA novels. But yeah, again, I actually don't read that much books of video game series. Let's say it like that. I read books about video games and systems and consoles and everything, but those are actually the books that I read about video games or video game series.